What's going on, you loyal listeners? Thank you for tuning in to the L Squared Podcast. I'm your host here, Luke Larson, and joining me today, as per the usual, my lovely and loquacious special guest who will be assisting me in leisurely launching you into levity, Old Legs.
Yeah.
So, we're both, Old Legs and I are jacked. This is my favorite episode of our podcast every year. And every year. This is our third annual top 10 of the year, right?
This is it. Yeah. This is the big one. This is the triquel, if you may.
The Dynasty?
Is that Dynasty's got to be 4, I think.
No, that's 3.
We're saving the Dynasty.
3. Okay, whatever.
All right, agree to disagree. We're off to a great start.
Yeah, either way.
It's been 3.
3 is the magic number. And hopefully we'll be around for a 4th. You never know.
Right. We're working on the Patreon page.
Right.
I know there's been a big demand. It's like, hey, how can I help out the podcast? How can I help you guys be better? And we're working on it. Okay, we want to take your money. We just need an outlet for that. And once it is available to you, trust me, loyal listeners, you will. You're not going to believe it. There's going to be some pretty crazy stuff. So yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah,
I'm excited. Big year.
Big year. 2019. Here we go. I'm ready.
Here we go. So we got our top 10 for the previous year, 2018. As like we said, this is the third year that we've done it, and believe it or not, I kind of broke character. This is not very on brand for me.
Hold on. Let me. The crowd's going wild out there. What? They can't believe it.
Yeah.
Wow.
So Old Legs went out and he did himself a little bit of legwork here.
This is really unprecedented.
I went back. I was kind of curious. I took a look, and I had to go back and kind of scroll through and listen through the last 2 times we did a top 10. But I'm going to start here just to I was just kind of curious to see how our list held up and what you thought of your list, what I thought of my list. So I'm going to start with 2016 here. So 2016, number 10. For you was Nocturnal Animals. I thought that was a garbage movie.
Oh, yeah. I remember putting that on. Hell yeah.
Yeah. I think just to piss me off. But number 10, Nocturnal for Luke. Number 10 for me was Green Room. Great movie. Much better than yours. Number 9. This I didn't like either of these movies. I don't know why I put them on here. Captain America. That was Luke's pick. Mine was La La Land. Garbage movie. Just I think I kind of caved to the popular consensus there.
Yeah,
Thank
you
God
did.
It didn't win Best Picture, but
almost.
Number 8, Hell or High Water.
Yeah.
Number 8, Swiss Army Man.
For you, yeah.
For me. 7, The Witch. 7, The Lobster. I think both of those movies are a little bit better than number 7. I don't know what do you think there?
That's kind of what I was thinking too. Like, I remember wanting to put The Lobster on my list. I haven't rewatched it, but I definitely was not ready to watch The Lobster when I did.
That movie is incredible.
And so
it's so good.
It's so good. No, you're right. I need to watch it again for sure. But I'm kind of surprised that The Witch is so low on my list, because it's just like, if you listen back to our podcast, that's the one we hold in very high esteem.
Right.
So that's kind of interesting.
That was number 7. Number 6 was Moonlight for you. Number 6 was Hell or High Water for me. So again, 2 good movies there. I was okay with that. Number 5, Arrival, was Luke. And number 5 was The Witch for me. So again, I think I bumped The Witch up a little bit, but this is where my list, I feel pretty good about it. So it's tough.
And it's weird. Now just hearing it, it's like, wow, Arrival was only number 5 for me. That's kind of interesting.
I know. So let's see. We'll keep going here. Number 4, La La Land was Luke, and number 4 for me was The Neon Demon, which,
yeah, I put La La Land above The Witch and Arrival, man, I regret that.
Yeah, so,
Wow.
I mean,
talking about caving to popular culture. Wow, that was a mistake on my part.
Not a musical, also not a good movie.
Right,
but,
and I don't like musicals.
We'll keep going right here.
Wow.
Number 3 is where we synced up, Manchester.
Yeah.
Both of us had that at number 3.
Great.
I feel real good about that.
One of our favorites. Definitely an L-squared favorite.
I'll find a way to relate Manchester to pretty much everything.
Yeah.
So, number 2, L-squared had The Nice Guys. Number 2, how do you feel about that?
Love The Nice Guys. I love that.
Nice
Honestly,
Guys. That one missed my list altogether, so we were kind of far off on that.
You know, that one, I rewatched it about a year ago, I think, and it's still really good. I don't know if I'd have it as high, but I just know at the time, that movie really struck a chord.
You're feeling it.
And I think I probably laughed harder out loud at that movie than any other movie I've seen in a theater. It just really hit me the right way. So, looking back, I'd probably have it a little bit lower. But at the time, I was feeling it. You know, and that's what these lists are about. Loyal
we did a
listeners.
redraft, you know.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Yeah, so number 2 for me was I went with the Heptapods. I went Arrival.
Yeah, that's
I feel
a good
still really
spot.
good about that. And then number 1, Luke, you had Swiss Army Man, which I have no problem with.
Yes.
Incredibly unique movie-going experience. Still holds up.
Yes,
still really
it
good.
does.
Still the very tippity top for I think both Paul Dano and Daniel Radcliffe.
Yeah.
Certainly Daniel Radcliffe. Paul Dano's a little bit tougher because he's so damn good.
Right.
And then number 1 for me, I had Moonlight, which
yeah, it was tough
movie.
because I think I just watched Moonlight and another one literally an hour before we started recording. So I had no time to really think
Let
about
it. Sink in.
Yeah.
And Moonlight's definitely one. It sat with me for a while. And
I mean, looking back, it's right that it made my list, but I would definitely rework some of that. But just saying, I just rewatched Swiss Army Man last weekend or the weekend before, and that fucker sings, man. That movie is fucking awesome. I love that was my number 1 for sure.
So yeah, that was 2016 for us. 2017. All of you loyal listeners I'm sure you can't forget one of the seminal moments in podcasting history.
Oh my god, here we go.
I started off my list with the critically acclaimed film that I put on my list last year, Your Name, which didn't come out in 2017, and I didn't see in 17. But
just the live reaction of me being like,
I lost my fucking mind for a little. I was like the Jets on draft day. I missed my pick.
I was like,
I didn't have it.
Wait, this sounds a lot like the movie that made your list last year.
Yeah, so
like,
that was that, and I quickly
that really set the
threw
tone
back
for
in,
that episode.
Baby Driver for number 10. Your number 10 was Logan, which again I have no problem with. I don't really get down with the comic book movies, but
yeah, I think it sounds like that was probably one that I do love that movie, and it was one that I was like, okay, this has to make my list, and then it probably was I kept putting more and more on, and I was like, all right, this just has to make it, so it's going at 10. But
number 9 for me was Thelma. Did you ever see Thelma?
No, I still haven't.
Okay. So I don't think a lot of people have seen it.
And I still have no idea what it's about. So,
girl with psychic powers who goes through a bit of a sexual crisis as she moves out. It's interesting. I liked it. Your number 9 was Split. Okay, so we talked all about M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah, we
last
did.
week, so
This in the last
rehash
episode.
that.
I was really proud of that
8.
pick because that one came out early in the year, and I almost forgot about it and was like, "Oh nope, you're not getting away from me." Anyway, sorry.
My My boy's wicked smart.
I'm so fucking smart.
Number 8, Luke had Get Out, number 8, and I had The Disaster Artist, the Tommy Wiseau
good
mega pick.
Yeah, that's kind of, it seems a little low, but I know that it didn't Get Out. I think I said that I appreciated it more than I liked it.
Okay.
It just didn't quite, it's a great movie, I think, objectively. So, that's interesting. That's definitely like a personal, like, just didn't quite resonate with me. But
it's really, really rewatchable. There's just, I'm just in from, there's certain, like, once they're in the car, once they hit the deer, I'm just, it's really hard to turn off.
No, that's a good point. I
like that movie.
Hearing it at 8 sounds weird. It sounds like it should be higher, but that's interesting.
Yeah. We were pretty close. You had 7, you had The Disaster Artist, and I had Good Time.
Okay.
Good Time I was a little bit lower on, but I totally saw it. I had a good time.
No one's ever made that joke about that movie before.
Yeah,
that might be the first one in recorded history right here.
And then 6, you had Thor.
Ragnarok. Fuck yeah.
Thor, The Prisoner of Ragnarok.
Yeah.
Thor.
Great movie.
And this is where I started just a string of straight up just ghost movies. I had a Ghost Story at number 6.
Yeah, I have since seen that. Since that episode.
Yeah, had you not seen it then?
I hadn't, no.
Okay. What did you think? Would it have cracked your list or no?
Oddly enough, it was weirder than I thought it would be. When all you see from trailers is just a sheet and a house.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this was like really weird. The pie eating scene did not disappoint. And there's like one particular scene in that movie that stuck with me above everything else. But it was like at the party, like the frat kind of college party, the house party, where that guy kind of gets all philosophical. That was the part that really stuck with me. The rest of it, I was like, I can appreciate it as kind of an artsy experimentation type film, but I think those are all the thoughts I have on it. I'm kind of ringing out the little brain here, but yeah.
That'll do it.
Okay.
5, we synced up here. Dark Song.
Boom, and that was the one that I was hoping that you wouldn't have on your list that I could sneak on there, but you fucking put it at the same time. You call me smart, this guy's fucking smart.
4, you had the Apes, Planet of the Apes. Can you still got it? You still got your...
that's a little high, but I do remember loving that movie, and it might have been because I saw it at the Alamo Drafthouse. And I had coffee and popcorn, which sounds like a weird combo, but I was just in such a great mood, and it was exactly what I wanted it to be.
Just give me a little Smart Ape. Your impressions of. You remember how to do that?
It's been a while.
Dig deep. I'm putting you on the spot here.
Apes, follow Cuba now. That would be.
Do you remember the smart? Do you remember the?
Oh
smart
yeah.
You did.
Bad ape.
Oh my gosh.
Bad ape.
Yeah, it's Bad Ape. Yeah.
Bad ape. Yeah, that was it.
That killed me.
Yeah. I forgot I could do that.
My number 4 was Personal Shopper.
Yeah.
The Kristen Stewart led. Just.
Still haven't made time for that
one.
Nope. Yeah, I'm the worst.
Sometimes you suck.
Yeah, I know.
Number 3, this was another unanimous one. This was Blade Runner.
Boom. And I remember, like, when we saw it, I had, like, look, we have a record of it on the podcast. It took me a little while to really let it soak in. Like, that movie's a lot. It's a lot to take in.
It's a lot of movie.
It's just so amazing that the first time I saw it, it was just like, it took a while for it to soak in. And when I rewatched it, I was like, this fucking thing is so good.
I think I saw it 3 times in theaters, and I'm losing my shit over the Dune remake. I can't wait for that.
I will say, I bought, before you go, sorry, one last thing, Blade Runner 2049, bought it on 4K. It's the best 4K movie I have. That thing in 4K just is amazing. So that was my dog sneezing in the background. That means she agrees.
Boom. Number 2, Free Fire for Luke. I still haven't seen this movie.
That was an inspired choice. I will say, redoing it, I would probably put it, D again agrees, she sneezed again. I would probably put it a little bit lower now just because it isn't that rewatchable, honestly, unfortunately.
Okay.
It didn't hold up as much as I thought it would. But when that movie came out, I was like, oh yeah, it looks like whatever. And I went to see it, and it blew me away, and I loved it. And I still really like it, but having rewatched it, I was like, okay, for me, it loses a little bit on the rewatch, so I'd probably put that one down a little bit farther. But it was an inspired choice, and you know what? I'll stick to it. Wow, she can just not stop agreeing with me.
Yeah. So number 2 for me was Get Out. We talked about Get Out. Love Get Out. And then our number 1 picks last year. You had Good Time, and I had Lady Bird.
Yeah, and at that time I had not seen Lady Bird.
Okay.
That was the big miss that I knew I hadn't seen when we did our list last year, but that was like...
Where's Lady Bird? Where do you put Lady Bird?
Boy, that's pretty high. That would probably at least knock out Free Fire for number 2.
Okay.
That one really surprised me. Because I remember saying on that pod, which is weird, go back and listen to it, because I had some weird thoughts, like always. That's why you guys listening, am I right? But it was something like I thought that, for some reason, I thought it was going to be kind of like a Juno Essence type of thing, like kind of a niche sort of that kind of... I don't know why I thought that, but after having seen it, it's phenomenal. And... I still stand by Good Time as my number 1, though, because I just rewatched that actually on Saturday, and that movie is great. And that was one that I went into knowing literally nothing. I just saw the title and was like, I'm going to go see that. And it just blew me away, and I wasn't sure if it would hold up because I didn't know if just having no expectations made it great, but after rewatching it, no, that thing is awesome. That's a great movie. So.
Yeah. And so I have to bring up one more little item before we close the book on 2017, because neither of us saw this movie, but this movie absolutely cracks my top 5 at least, and that was the P.T. Anderson, the Phantom Thread.
Oh yeah, that's right. That was the other big miss. That we both missed.
That was it was really tough to see. We didn't get a release. I didn't end up seeing that till probably, I don't know.
I didn't see it till like April. I want to say
March, April. Yeah. And I actually saw it in theaters, but it was in Omaha, and that one, I think I put that one in at number 4, maybe number 3. The more I think about that movie, I was like, oh my god, this is just, it's so freaking good. Yeah, I mean, and
I really liked it, but I don't know if it would make my top 10, honestly.
Really? Okay.
I'd probably have to rewatch it just because it was, it just kind of didn't quite hit me on that, like, surface level. It was all surface level for me. It was just like, yeah, this is beautiful. Daniel Day-Lewis is giving great performance. It's a P.T. Anderson movie, obviously, but it didn't really resonate much farther than that off the first viewing. So, but
so I had to bring that up.
Yeah, that's a good note.
It's on there for me, and yeah. So without further ado,
man, I'm so pumped.
Are you ready to kick it off here?
I'm ready. So how are we gonna do this?
Okay. So the format will remain the same as last year. We will go 2 and 2. So I'll do 2 movies, and then you'll do 2 movies, and then we'll meet at the top, and we'll talk about them as we go. And If we have some overlap in your list, I don't know your list, you don't know my list, so we'll just kind of have to freestyle here. We are doing it live. So
I'm just showing it as is.
Yeah, as is. I don't know what's gonna happen.
You don't know either. All right, let's kick it off. Engineer.
Okay.
We have an engineer in the background. Josh, hit us. Our producer. Hit us with Old Legs number 10.
Number 10.
Okay, so we played it. There wasn't a lot of dialogue in it. So your number 10 was?
You were never really here. And then cue the synth music. The wow, right?
Oh, I can play our intro again. That's kind of synthy.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
so that was mine. You Were Never Really Here. This was directed by Lynn Ramsey and starred the brooding, physical Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah.
In a part where, so again, not a lot of dialogue in this movie. I had some difficulty even coming up with, basically every clip from this movie was just a 6-minute wordless, just trip through the psychoverse. So this film was it's a film about human trafficking. It's a film about PTSD. It's a film about loss. It's a film about isolation. It's a film about revenge, violence. It's really something else. Just kind of top to bottom. It's one of those films for me that your pulse rate never really drops below 80, 90 beats per minute, even when there's not really much going on, when it's just a slow panning shot of the cityscape. What did you think? You saw this movie, right?
Right. It is a little bit higher on my list, so I'll kind of reserve my thoughts for then.
Good. So, good. So we'll kind of flesh that out once we get to it on your list. That's kind of how we do it. If we have one that pops up more than once, we'll talk about it at the highest ranking. So, so let's go ahead and let's move on. So let's go to my number 9.
3 tahun gua jadi mesin pembunuh mereka. Nggak kehitung pemataan yang udah gua lakuin. Kalau lu sudah dilantik menjadi seorang sukses, hukumnya mutlak. Jangan pernah mengampuni. Jadi saat itulah gua melihat satu kehidupan kecil yang sudah di ujung tanduk. Mungkin aja gue bisa merubah takdir gue.
So, for people who speak that language, that was
The Night Comes For Us. Oh, The Night Comes For Us, man. There's not a whole lot of films out there that can just make me say just fuck John Wick, because I love John Wick, and don't get me wrong, I am 1A when it comes to Keanu Reeves, but so The Night Comes For Us. This came out on Netflix, and it is one of the most insane action kung fu slaughterhouse movies I have ever seen. So this film, it features Iko Uwais, who has kind of actually started to garner a little bit of steam here in the States. He's known for the Raid films. I've never seen him lose a fight in a film. He's that guy. And I think he was in, what was it, Mile 22, the one where they gotta like.
Oh, with Marky Mark?
Mark, yeah. And they like, and they never, they could just get like a helicopter or some shit, but they're just like, no, let's just take the bus. It's gonna be really scary, but yeah. So he's in that. So he's been in a couple other things, but my God, if you're waiting for John Wick 3, if you haven't seen The Raid, if you just need something to just quench that just guttural action just caveat in your life, see this movie. It's incredible. I've never seen a fight scene where they're beating each other so senselessly that I wanted it to end. I just like, please, like, what? Somebody just die. I'm sick of it. No more fighting. I would love to go back and just count how many compound fractures are in this movie. Don't be fair warned if you had like a double cheeseburger from McDonald's before you watch this movie. This movie's incredible, top to bottom. It fulfills that perfect little spot in these types of movies where you have to have a bunch of villains and they all have to be kind of weird and cool, and they have to have these ridiculous weapons that I know for a fact wouldn't work in real life, but they just like sawing people's heads off with them. And this movie is awesome. I did not think, even from the guys that brought us the Raid 2, that they could really top that, but I think they did.
Wow. That's high praise.
This movie is such a banger. Did you see this one?
No, and this is one that you told me to watch probably 17 times, and I just never did.
I've told everyone I meet, I'm like, see when that comes for us? Like, it's pretty fucking good.
Yeah.
And no one will watch it. It's on Netflix.
Right. And
it's on Netflix.
Still haven't seen it.
So that's all I'll say. I mean, there's not. I mean, what's the plot to any of these movies?
Right. Yeah.
Good guys, lots of bad guys. If there's one thing I've learned about Indonesian gangs is that, dude, every crew is like 700 dudes deep.
Okay.
Like, they got a lot of bodies, and they're just throwing them out.
Good turnout. Yeah.
Yeah. Great turnout. It's like the Warriors times like 3. Like, you need like 4 Central Parks to hold all the dudes that are in an Indonesian gang. So yeah, go out, see it. Couldn't recommend it high enough. And so I think it's time for you to start. What's your number 10?
It's time for the superior list to start. Hit it off.
We'll see about that.
You write songs?
I don't sing my own songs.
Why?
I just don't feel comfortable.
You come sing that song that I love.
No, I can't do that.
All you gotta do is sing to
Boom. So this was one similar to Logan, I think, on my list last year. This was one that when I saw it, I was like, I love this movie, and I want to, it's going to make my top 10. And this was one that just, unfortunately, I kept adding movies to it, and it kind of kept getting pushed down. But I was like, I can't let this slip out of my top 10. Because I just loved it so much.
For the viewers, what movie was that?
Sorry, A Star Is Born. I just thought the song, took care of the introduction.
I don't even think I've heard of that. Like, what?
Yeah.
Who's in this movie?
Yeah. I know.
Yeah.
We did actually talk in depth about it on our October Grab Bag episode, so if you want to go back and listen to it, but this was one where I saw trailers for it, and I thought these trailers are amazing. Bradley Cooper directed it, his directorial debut. I was like, I really want to see that, and I was not disappointed. It really, honestly, it kind of blew me away a little bit, and yeah, all around, phenomenal film, I think.
So, but I can't even really do the bit. Like, I haven't seen the movie. I saw the movie. This one did not make my list, so we can go ahead and talk about this one.
Whoa.
Yep. Sorry. I liked it. I thought it was good. Shallows is just a banger.
Yep.
Shallows is what La La Land was missing.
But La La Land made your list, though. Remember that?
Right. And I feel shitty about it. Thanks, man. Thanks.
So, did you think this was going to make your list at any time?
I thought this was this movie exceeded my expectations. I think it exceeded everyone's expectations.
Yeah, I think so too.
Without any critical acclaim, I think it's still just as much of a meme as it became. But just the fact that it was coherent and that Lady Gaga is really good.
Yeah.
And I don't think that you could have really expected anything more from it. And by all accounts, I think this is probably going to clean up come Oscar time here, which is
I think so
up. Is
too.
that next weekend or this weekend?
Yes. It's one of the two.
Great. Way to be on top of it here. We host a movie podcast.
It's one of those. Yeah, what do the Oscars have to do with movies anyway?
Yeah, you know.
Okay, so it's the 24th, so it'd be next Sunday.
Okay, yeah. So I don't think there's really anything left to be said about A Star Is Born. I definitely don't hold it against you for having it on your list. It's close for me, but it just kind of missed out. Again, we'll kind of go through some of the honorable mentions here at the end. I had a lot. I took a lot of time to write down every movie that I saw this year, which probably turned out to be not such a great thing because it made this whole process pretty difficult. But
it was just one where I was like, I just can't lie to myself. I got to put it on there. So
yeah. So number 9.
Number 9. So, that was a promo for the Triplet Steakhouse in New York from 3 Identical Strangers.
Boom.
All
right.
Comes in at number 9.
Dipping into the nonfiction category.
Yep.
All right.
A real-life documentary. So, this was one that, like, I saw a trailer for it really early on, and I thought it looked very interesting, but I was like, this is probably one that I'll see, like, down the road at some point and think, oh, that was really good. But then it kept getting all this critical acclaim, and everybody kept talking about it, and then I was like, you know what? I just need to see this thing. And I saw it. I think I rented it at home from the comfort of my own home television set. And, man, this thing is great. There's always one, is at least one big documentary that comes out every year that gives you everything you need. This was that one for me this year. Again, this is one that a lot of people have talked about. I think the less you kind of know about it, the better. And we did talk about it on a previous episode. But it's just a really, really, really interesting story that has a lot of unique turns, which sounds very vague, I guess, now that I'm saying it out loud. But without trying to give anything away, it really goes farther than you'd think it would. And yeah, go ahead.
Yes, I also saw this film. I forgot that we talked about it. I can't remember, but I saw it as well. It didn't make my list, but I agree with you that it was really good. And just besides just the humanistic story of what happens to the three brothers, I think anyone that's interested in just the debate whether nature versus nurture, which one predominates, this is a really fascinating case study. And granted, working in the scientific community, there's some things there that is maybe a little bit more inside baseball to me, where I've kind of seen things similar to this, or I've at least like heard. Not to say that I'm an expert in any sorts of genetic / behavioral studies, but
yeah, let's make sure we get that out there.
It's absolutely fascinating story, and that's cool. I like that pick. I like that pick a lot.
All right, so let's get back to the far less superior list for Old Legs.
Number 8.
Number 8.
Under the crimson, primordial sky, the wretched warlock reached into the dark embrace. His fist closed around the serpent's eye. Strange and eternal. I need you to get me that girl I saw.
Whew.
Mandy is number 8. Oh, man. I really like this movie. So Mandy was the Nicolas Cage run fever dream in which he embraces the inner tiger. There were so many cool things about this movie. You saw this movie, right?
Yes, I did. We actually had an episode called Mid Mandy, I think we called it, where we kind of talked in depth about it.
Okay.
But yeah,
Is this on your list?
Unfortunately, it did not make my list.
Oh, all right.
And
okay.
even though
So
go ahead.
I'll let you finish.
Okay.
So, really, the only thing I have to say about Mandy is Cheddar Goblin.
Yeah. Yep.
And
Cheddar Goblin. That's it.
Just Cheddar Goblin.
That's all you need to know. All you need to know.
There's not really much explaining to do here. We tried.
We did. We really did.
And it's kind of one of those ones for me that where when I see something that I've never really seen on film before, it sticks out to me. And the age-old rule of do I remember anything about the movie? Yes, I remember several things, and therefore it ranks very, very well with me, and it made the list. So number 8, Mandy for me. It's an absolute trip, and go ahead.
I'm really
I kind of cut you off there.
Yeah, and it's not okay, but I'm just really jealous that you have it on your list. I really wanted to put it on mine, but like I said, I just can't lie to myself. And I don't need to tell other people this, but I am a huge Nicolas Cage fan. I have I have a mural in my room of him with his shirt open to show his hair, chest hair. Literally watches me as I sleep. I'm not making that up. And
it's too bad he's not on right now. I'd love for him to hear this. That you love him so much, but just didn't make the cut.
No.
And, go ahead, continue.
Then there's a mug. I just bought a mug that has his face on it that said "You're my national treasure." I love Nick Cage, and I really like this movie, but it just didn't quite. It was memorable. There's no doubt about that. And it was...
So you were just hoping for like a little bit more Nick Cage?
Yes,
just like,
100%.
I just don't really feel like he was
100%.
really giving it all.
Yeah.
It's
just, it just didn't quite... It felt like there were definitely two halves of the movie, and it kind of...
Okay.
It didn't really... Like, the first half was intriguing, and I was like, okay, yeah, it's going to get really weird. But then once it once it falls off the cliff, it just really falls off the cliff, but not in like not in a believable way for me, which sounds weird about this movie, but just the way they set it up, like it just felt like two completely different movies. And like I always say, my stupid generic copy and paste film fan theory, when you try to be smart, is you could say, well, there's a point in this movie that, well, maybe Nick Cage actually died, and the rest of the movie is so weird and stuff because it's actually the last thing he's imagining as he dies. Fuck off with all that shit.
Does it even matter?
Fuck all. No, it doesn't. And fuck it all. It's not an explanation. And it just didn't quite flow. Like it felt like this is the first half and then this is the second half. And it felt like two kind of different movies.
Right.
And, unfortunately, I mean, I will see it again, but it just didn't,
I'll give you that criticism. So my response to that, and just what kind of I'll leave it at with Mandy, is I thought it was a special movie because I don't think I've ever seen a vehicle for Nick Cage's talents that has been able to match his level of intensity more than this film did, and just working on a just sheer pandemonium level is really cool, and it's going to be really tough to duplicate that to get a better use of his skills where he's just losing his mind.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if we see that again, and it was an absolutely perfect pairing, and I couldn't ignore that.
No, that's right, and I would have liked to seen like a whole movie of that if they would have done, started out that way and not do half. I'm getting a little greedy, but I'm just saying.
Sure.
If it's my money on the table,
All right. So, hey. I hear you, man. I hear you. So,
let's make that happen, guys. What are we doing sitting around here for?
I don't agree, but let's go ahead and...
I don't know if I can handle it.
Let's move on to number 7 on my list.
Number 7.
I wasn't aware that I had offended. Jesus didn't want our suffering. He suffered for us. He wants our commitment and our obedience. I'm one of his creation. The heavens declare the glory of God. God is present everywhere, in every plant, every river, every tiny insect. The whole world is a manifestation of his holy presence. I think this is an issue where the church can lead, but they say nothing.
Clip over. That's the
Okay.
end of the clip.
Sorry, I can't really hear him, so you're gonna have to kind of help me out there.
Don't worry, we'll edit all this out. We'll have it seamless. Right when it ends, we're gonna come back to. So this is gonna be the clean end. All right, go.
Yes. So number 7, First Reformed. I'll just start with it. Did you see this movie? Was it on your list?
This was one that I really, really wanted to see, but I have not seen it yet. And the director, Paul Schrader, speaking of Nick Cage, the last movie he did before this was called Dying of the Light with Nick Cage, and that was one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life. And I literally turned it off 20 minutes through, and I don't do that with movies.
I'm this close to
and
hanging
then,
up the phone right now.
then, when that movie released, Paul Schrader blamed it on everyone else other than himself, and said they tore my movie apart, which is probably true. And then Nick Cage also said, "Fuck that movie." So if Nick Cage is in a bad movie and he thinks it's bad, then it's really, really bad.
Well, we're not here to talk about In a Dying Light. We're here to talk about First Reformed.
Sorry, go ahead.
And so, for those of you that didn't get a chance to see First Reformed, this was a film led by Ethan Hawke. He was in the clip there. He plays a priest who is experiencing a incredibly traumatic crisis of faith, and More so, I think I would almost characterize it as a crisis in humanity. It almost runs deeper. His loss in his loss of trust in humanity almost it trumps his loss of faith in God, and it's a really, really incredible story. It's a tough watch. I'll start with that. But it's definitely, if you want memorable? To. Oh yeah, it is absolutely memorable. It kind of reminded me a little bit of a ghost story, not really any like narrative wise, or there's no Casey Affleck isn't under a bed sheet in this one, unfortunately. But it does have that kind of celestial feel to it, where there's this kind of lunar thing that's just kind of hanging over the top of it, and just the way some of the film is shot and some of the scenes. And wow, talk about a drink of choice. The old Pepto-Bismol and whiskey is pretty incredible. It's like if you took like Kurt Cobain's stomach problems and like the dude from The Whitest Guy You Know, when he tries to only drink whiskey diet, it's
Super
like
size
those two
whiskey,
things combined, and it is like, holy shit. So yeah, there's some stuff in this movie, and Ethan Hawke is just on another level. Amanda Seyfried is really, really good, and I don't understand why we don't see her more, or why people go to refuse to go see Mamma Mia 2. Here we go again. I'm waiting for it.
Yeah, well, yeah. We're not fucking talking about that. Okay.
No, this movie's really good.
You said you liked the ending too, right?
The ending is incredible. Yeah. Truly, truly, truly don't know which way it's going to go, and I couldn't. This might be one of those ones where I look back and I think it should be higher, but just because I think I docked it a little bit because of just that it's tough to rewatch. It's a tough watch in general. It's one of those movies. I don't know, we're still working on that category where it's difficult to recommend, difficult to watch, but it earns it, and that's what separates it from other movies that are difficult to watch, is that it absolutely earns the painstaking, really just isolation and loneliness that it puts you through to get to the end. But I also like kind of just the synchronicity of my list. Like Mandy is just kind of has some Christian Catholic undertones to it, and obviously this one is largely faith-based, so just kind of like as my list comes together, I like those little pockets, little subgenres there. So that makes me feel good. But that's all I got to say on First Reformed. Ethan Hawke, he's incredible.
Yeah,
so,
he's must-see TV for me. I'll see anything Ethan Hawke is in at this point.
I mean, except for First Reformed. But, go ahead. Number 8. What do you got?
My number 8.
The senator's teenage daughter's missing. Don't worry, I'll get her. My name's Joe. Take me with your dad. Dad! Where is she?
It's okay, Joe.
So my number 8 is You Were Never Really Here, Joaquin Phoenix.
I did hear that synth there.
Yeah.
That came through on my end.
Attaboy. That's worth the ticket price right there. I would say the best synth of the year. That should be our own Oscar category, honestly. But we talked about it a little bit. This movie, like, when I saw it, this is one of those smaller movies that comes around and it's like you're instantly like, Okay, I literally cannot wait to see that movie. This is one that I bought on Blu-ray to watch it because I couldn't find it and I couldn't rent it wherever. So I was like, I'm taking a shot here. You know, I'm taking a shot in the dark, and I'm pretty sure it's going to land. And, you know, this thing is kind of a challenging watch in a couple ways. It's not really your traditional, like you said about First Reform, like kind of a tough hang. It's not necessarily that. It is, but it isn't. There are moments like that in it. But I think that what I really appreciate about it, what makes it kind of a hard movie to watch, is that it's almost like a film class as you're watching it. Like, just there's so many subtle little details that just about like blocking and scene setup and just the way that things are shot and like how they use lighting and things in the background to tell the story and to convey different things. It's like it's a lot to take in, but this movie is, if you want kind of a chubbier PTSD Joaquin Phoenix wearing a wife beater and a hoodie, hasn't showered, with a man bun and a tack hammer and a shitload of synth, this is your movie.
Yeah, I'll agree. This one definitely, you said it really well. This film is a masterclass in taking chances, but making the right choices. So I think one thing that really stuck with me was kind of the ultimate payoff, where he's bought in his ballpoint hammer and he's got his duct tape and he's about to go up into this apartment complex, and just you can see where it's going. Yep. And the film resists the urge to turn it into Drive or turn it into The Night Comes for Us, where Joaquin Phoenix he's replaying the scene from Old Boy where he's just going through the corridor, just mowing people down. It does this really funny thing where it just shows you the security footage, which is such a I would never, and I'm stupid and I'm not a director. I would never thought like, hey, let's have just like the high point, the crux of this film, be shot through these security videos, and then not. Boy, does it work though!
Yeah, and then in a revenge film to not actually show, especially in that scene, the violence and the grittiness that it's building towards,
right?
And
because the plot. Sorry to cut you off there. The plot is centered around revenge, but I think the themes of the film it wants you to connect more with what is this guy going through.
Right.
It's a film about PTSD. It's a film about detachment from society, detachment from friends, family, just the funeral scene.
Ugh.
That's what I initially had pegged for my little clip there, but it was just 6 minutes of just synth, and I was like, wait, this really doesn't work in an audio format. It's like, damn, I love the song though. The song should just play over our entire pod.
And there's subtlety for days in it, and it's really like, it's one that you could just sit down and rewatch over and over and over again,
right,
and just keep picking up those little things like we said about like PTSD and not showing the violence. It's in a subtle way basically showing that, violence isn't satisfying. It isn't going to. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't resolve any of his problems. He's still fucked up, and he still has a shitty life.
Yeah.
And it's not like this gory porn that we all get to jerk off to that we like, in these other movies. It really, and it's just like
The Night Comes for Us.
Right, exactly. But it just doesn't take the route that you're expecting, and it's really, like we said, it's just a masterclass. And I think this is one that's going to really hold up in years to come, and I think it's going to be one that we look back on and appreciate more as the years go by.
I think the real violence is in his head, and that's even more tragic and
I think so too.
More powerful. And so I totally agree. But what are we on? We got number 7.
Number 7.
Here we go.
These animals came out like an invasion.
In Louisiana, millions of strange beasts are crawling out of the swamps,
Hurricane Katrina didn't get rid of them.
wreaking havoc on this fishing community.
When I look out now, it looks like a disaster.
The only thing left to do is fight back.
But all rat for dinner.
We usually average 150 to 200 a day.
The war's not over. We still here. We ain't leaving.
Rodents of unusual size. Part of it.
Boom. So you heard it right at the end there. Another documentary from this year, Rodents of Unusual Size, number 7. So this was one, if you're a fan of the L Squared podcast, this was one that I saw at the South Dakota Film Festival that we were lucky enough to go to. This was the first feature they played of 2 features, and it was the first night, so it was the big opening. This is to start off the weekend, and I was just blown away. This documentary is great, and I got to sit down with one of the 3 directors that was there. We did an interview on it. It's on our channel. That was a really fun interview. That Quinn Costello, he's fucking awesome. But this movie just got its big release on PBS about a month ago, and now it's on iTunes, and I really encourage you guys to go out and watch it. And I'm not just saying it to pimp him out, pimp us out, but I'm just like, I was blown away that I was like, wow, this is literally like one of my favorite documentaries I've ever seen. Like, it's so good, and it's good for days, and it's just such an interesting story that has so many interesting offshoots that you wouldn't think about. And basically, if you're not aware, if you haven't heard that episode, it's about the nutria problem in Louisiana. So there's this infestive species called nutria that are big rodents, and they eat away at the coastline, and they're literally like tearing Louisiana down. And they have this a bounty out for them where you get $5 a tail. So that's a lot of the local economy for people who live down there. Is they use these for income, and then they're trying to get the fur trade going again, because it's interesting that the fur trade is actually good for the environment, because they're such a shitty species to the environment that like they're trying to get this fur trade going that's eco-friendly, and just how this is really ingrained into the culture down there. It's really a phenomenal documentary, and it's one that like it doesn't like. It's not necessarily as deep as some other ones get, like the subject matter, but like I said, it's just a phenomenal documentary, and I think that it's a super small one. Obviously, it did its festival run. I'm really hoping that it catches on. I don't think it got a theatrical release, but I really encourage, because honestly, like just watching it, I literally had the stupid, cheesy thought in my head where I was like, oh, this literally has something for everybody. Like, there's one scene about the fur trade that I was like, oh, I can think of 5 people who would really connect to this part. There's a part about a guy who started his business about catching nutria in cities and stuff. And I was like, I can think of about 5 to 10 people who would really connect to that guy. And there's this wacky old guy who lives in the Cajun. It's like, everybody's going to love him, It's just like little things like that I'm like, this movie, I think it has a lot to get over because of the cover, and people see a big rat with big orange teeth and they get a little scared. They're like, I'm not gonna fucking watch that. But at any rate, it's a really, really good documentary, and I think more people should go see it.
Yeah, so I unfortunately I missed that first day at the South Dakota Film Festival, so I did not see this movie, but I'm with you, man. I want to see it. I hope that it becomes more widely available. I did miss that PBS spot that it had, so I'll be on the lookout for it, and I'm down.
Okay.
It's awesome.
My sell worked. I wrapped you
There
in.
we go.
And it's going to be memorable. I guarantee you that. It's going to check your one box that you have for your movie critiques. So
it's only one box.
It's
I'm
only
not
one.
asking a lot.
It's not really
Not
that
asking a lot.
high of a hill. Yeah, no.
Just memorable, yes or no?
All right, so let's move on to Old Legs' number 6.
Wow. Thank you. Would you like to take a seat?
Oh, sure.
You like chicken nuggets, right?
Yeah.
Cool. I got a 20-piece, and I also got 2 of every kind of sauce. But, if you have a favorite sauce and want more than one packet of it, you can have mine. I like all the sauces. Thanks. Yeah. Oh.
So that was your number 6, which was?
8th grade.
Boom.
8th grade. It's
Love
the
it.
it's the awkward movie. It makes me feel weird.
Yes.
Was this on your list? Are we talking about this now? Or are we saving it?
We're saving it, boy.
Okay. So, yeah, 8th grade tells the story of Elsie Fisher's character, directed by Bo Burnham. And that scene was between Elsie Fisher and Jake Ryan, Kayla, and then the Gabe character, who are just, they're just incredible together.
Yeah, they are.
Root for them so freaking hard. But, yeah, we'll go ahead and we'll save that one. We'll table it. And, yeah, we'll move on to my number 5.
Number 5.
Sitting like shit today, man. Looks cool to me. I'm Ruben. I'm Steven.
How long you been friends with those guys?
Couple months.
They're really cool. They're so cute. You're like at the age before guys become dicks.
So your number 5 was?
So my number 5, and this is where I have to break the rules a little bit, because I have 2. Yeah, I know. I did it. I don't care. If you want to fire me, fire me. I had to put 2 movies on here. They're essentially the same movie. One is nonfiction, one is of the documentary type, and the other is what we just heard there, mid-90s. I'll start with mid-90s. So mid-90s was directed by Jonah Hill, and let me just check quick here. Is this on your list, Luke?
It is a little bit higher.
Okay, so we will go ahead and we'll save it, but I just want to get to the other film that I had here in this spot. The other film was a documentary by Bing Liu called Minding the Gap, and this was it's eerily similar to mid-90s in that it just in real life it follows 2 different skateboarders growing up in Rockford, Illinois, and their journey. And this movie might have been the fact that I lumped them together. Maybe dropped Minding the Gap a little bit because for me, anytime that you can do something in nonfiction, it's gonna resonate a little bit more with me. And so I would say if I did have to rank these movies, I would put Minding the Gap higher than mid-90s. I thought they were both powerful, affecting movies, but gosh, like Minding the Gap, it really, really hits home. And basically the premise of the movie is that the director, Bing Liu, he has all this footage from when he was a kid skateboarding with his friends. So he's essentially the character from mid-90s. Which guy was it?
Sunburn.
No, not Sunburn. The kid that filmed everything. Remember what his?
Oh, yeah, like fourth grade or something.
Fourth grade. Yeah. 4th grade. So he's literally fulfilling the role of 4th grade. Doesn't talk. Hardly on camera, but he's always filming his friends skating. And so he goes back after adolescence, and he just kind of reconnects with his friends to see where they're at. And
so that sounds like really, really interesting. And I know that sounds whatever it sounds
Thanks.
like. Yeah, that sounds really fucking interesting, man. All right, let's go.
Yeah.
No, so do you think that took away some of your enjoyment of mid-90s then?
I
Would
think
this
so.
be like a good double feature?
An incredible double feature.
Okay.
I would go mid-90s first, Minding the Gap second.
Yeah.
Minding the Gap is brutally hard to watch. There's a couple things where it almost impossible to write, to put down on paper. Yeah,
You got me intrigued, man.
the last 20 minutes are just incredible. Yeah, the themes that it hits at, I don't know. It's one of those things where it could only happen in a documentary where this guy could go back and have these two incredibly interesting subjects who are trying to get by and trying to get out, and yeah, it's something else. I don't want to give anything away, but yeah, go out and see it. There's two really, really, really incredible skateboarding films this year, and I couldn't recommend either of them higher enough. So
Okay.
yeah, so
I'm excited
yeah,
to see it.
let's save our mid-90s conversation for when it comes up on your list. But yeah, that's my. So I had number 6, 8th grade, number 5, mid-90s. So
All right.
it's all you, man.
Number 6.
Critics everywhere are raving about Blindspotting.
This finna been a show you want to watch. By far.
You are a convicted felon.
Nobody is misreading you, Colin. Yeah, I know. Stop! You don't feel it like we do. To feel it, it has to be you. Stop pointing that at me. They're not loaded, bruh.
Those are for show loaded.
Okay.
Blindspotting, rated R. Now.
So, as you heard, Blind Spotting. So, this was one. Did you see this one?
Nope,
This make you-
I also missed this one at the
Right.
South Dakota Film Festival.
So-
this one got a wider release though, so I think if I looked, I'd be able to. It's on it. It's certainly I wanted to see it. I just wasn't able to.
Yep. This one was the second feature of 2 at the festival, and this movie is great. I was really hoping this was going to be like the Lady Bird or the Moonlight of this year, the small indie that really took off, and swept everything and everybody talked about. But it didn't quite get as big as I hoped it would. But this movie is great.
We said the title, right? Blindspotting.
Blindspotting. Yep. And it's really like, it's definitely like, here's an interesting thought I just had. I don't know. I think it's a good time capsule of right now, of 2018. I think that it's maybe the most modern movie, just like, and not in a bad way. And the way it tells its story, it's basically, I could go over the plot with you, but it's basically a guy gets out on parole and he's basically trying to restart his life. Obviously, we've heard that story before, but just kind of the modern problems and issues you'd run into as just a black guy getting out on parole in 2018, and just some of the stuff you deal with. And it's really, really good. It's not melodramatic when it could easily be. There's a lot of, honestly, like his friend in this movie, the lead in it, I'm going to look up his name because he, let's see here, it's David Diggs. Look out for him because he was also in Velvet Buzzsaw, which was, that did not make my list.
Are we gonna talk? Well, that's this coming year, but
right.
we might have a little Velvet Buzzsaw.
Maybe, the year's still young. Maybe it'll make it. But he was in that, and
I'd like to have a conversation about more.
Okay, yeah, we'll get there.
Morph was fucking incredible. I
We're
don't
not.
care what you think about
Listen,
the movie.
we're not talking about that right now. So
Okay, go ahead,
David
go ahead.
Diggs.
You can't just bring up Velvet
Yes, I
Buzzsaw
can.
and just-
All right.
just think I'm
Yes,
just
I
gonna,
can.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Yeah, just forget I said anything.
Like I haven't seen it.
Okay. Well, good. I'm glad.
Morph.
So, David Diggs is great. This is a big, meaty role that he is just like, I was like, wow, how have I never heard of this guy before? Similar to like Michael B. Jordan in Fruitvale Station, just kind of like a holy shit.
Okay.
This guy could be huge, you know? Really, really good. And his friend in it, the guy who plays his friend, Raphael, I have no idea how to say his last name, Casal, I'll say. He was great. Hilarious. Perfect. Just like, this movie is just, it feels very just realistic. It's fun. It's super funny. There's crime in it. There's drama. It's a really, really phenomenal film. And again, I was really, really hoping that this one would be the one that would kind of pick up and build steam, but it hasn't yet. But I feel like more people should see it because it's a really, really, really good movie. So that was my number 6.
awesome.
So go out and see it.
I'm sure I will get to it. It's on my queue.
Yeah.
And I'm excited because I've heard some really good things about it too.
Yeah.
So yeah, awesome.
Number 5.
Number 5. I'm back to me, right?
No. My
Oh, wait,
number
this
5.
is you.
My number 5. We'll get to
Yep.
you, sir.
All right, another.
You ever feel like you're waiting for something to happen?
It pains me to see you embarrass your father.
But you don't know what it is? You're in. Or you're out. That thing that could make your life special.
So that was American Animals. My number 5. Did that make your list?
It did not.
Have you seen it?
I didn't see it. No.
Okay. So, cool. So I'll talk about it for a little bit. This was one that, this takes a very unique, at least unique to me, I don't know if I've ever seen it before, take to it where it's like, it's part documentary, part retelling. Very interesting.
Okay.
So it like
What's this film about?
it's obviously based on a true story, but it's these college kids, specifically one college kid, who he's an art student, and he's just kind of in college, and he doesn't really know what he wants to do, sort of, and he's kind of middling around, and he has this kind of crazy friend who just does crazy shit, and he goes on this tour of school as this tour of these old books, and they're a bunch of like old Darwin books, and there's this one called American Animals, but it's from a famous artist that I can't remember right now, but painted a bunch of birds, and it's one of the most expensive books in the world, and just kind of telling his friend about that, and his friend was like, dude, we should fucking steal that, and so they try to steal it, they steal it, and it's this very, it's very, 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 very good. And
Wow.
there's a lot of varies in there. I don't know how many there
berries
were.
is that?
There was quite a few. Probably more than I should have put in there. But this was one that I didn't know anything about, and I just wanted there was something in me that told me I needed to see this movie. I don't know what it was, but I was
Barry Keoghan?
there. That was it. Yep, you found
Georgie.
it. Georgie.
Going out to sea, Georgie.
And to war.
Whoa.
But it was on, like, I have DirecTV.
That's my fucking guy.
Yeah, big on Georgie.
Love
He
that
was
guy.
great. This was my favorite Georgie performance by far.
Really?
He's really good. Yeah,
Better than Sacred Deer?
I haven't seen Sacred Deer yet
Oh.
because it's too much of a tough hang. Anyway,
Yeah, another tough
I need to be there with
tough
you
hang.
when I watch that. Anyway,
Yeah, that's probably true.
so this movie was on DirecTV. DirecTV has a thing called DirecTV Cinema where you can rent movies. And at the time, I had shitty internet fuck HughesNet if you're listening. It's the worst internet ever. And
Ooh, shots
fired. That's right. I don't want sponsorship from HughesNet because they fucking suck. Anyway, just sponsor Old Legs. And so I wanted to watch it, and I'm trying to rent it, and it just was like, oh, you don't have enough internet speed right now. And they said that I used up all my internet, even though I didn't. And HughesNet actually just had servers down from everywhere. And I was going through a hard time. I was kind of down. I was like, I just want to watch this movie. I just need to watch this movie. There's something in me. And I couldn't rent it. It wouldn't work. And I was like, I'm not giving up. I'm going to see this movie. So I looked online to see if Redbox had it. They said they did. So I went to the Redbox in town here. They didn't have it.
Old school.
There's another Redbox. They didn't have it. I was like, okay, I'm not giving up. Drove all the way to the next town over and checked that Redbox. They didn't have it. But I was like, okay, I'm going to go to Walmart then. Went to Walmart. They didn't have a Blu-ray copy of it, but they had the DVD copy. So I was like, I'm buying it. So I bought the DVD copy, and I came home, and I popped it in, and I watched it, and about halfway through, for whatever reason, my 4K player just shut off, and I was like, fuck you, I'm watching this movie. So I restarted it and watched it. I went through hell watching this movie, and it was all worth it, man. That movie is great. I mean, I've never seen a movie where it's like, it's telling the story, and it has characters playing it, and then every once in a while, the real-life person will just cut in, and it'll be a testimonial, and they'll be like, yeah, he kind of said this and that, whatever. And it was just like, it flowed so seamlessly, and just the themes of, like, being that age, a little bit younger than we are now, but just trying to being out on your own. And he was kind of like, I don't know if I have anything meaningful in my life. Like, I'm trying to be an artist, but I've never done anything. I don't have anything to reflect on. I don't have anything to express. Like, he was just kind of felt meaningless. And then this kind of event of like, well, it's kind of a fun thing. Like, they were like, oh yeah, we should totally steal this. So they spent time coming up with plans, and they didn't really think it was really going to go down. And then it did, and it was this big traumatic event for him. And they were like, he kind of did it almost like maybe I need something in my life to give my life meaning or to be known for. It's very, very interesting. And just a very, 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 very interesting.
It's almost like you host a podcast. Those superlatives, man.
I'm really, 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 really good at using descriptive words.
We'll work on that for 2019.
Yeah, we'll edit all that.
Cool.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I would honestly, like, even if the mic wasn't on right now, I'm really dying to hear your thoughts on it, Jordan.
Okay.
Because I think, sorry, Old Legs. Well, I'll edit that out. Because it's just, like I said,
3 years, it finally slipped.
It's really, damn it, now they know. Damn it.
Yeah.
All right. All right, let's get off my list. Let's get back to the good list. Number 4.
There you go. Now he's coming around. I like that.
All right, so your number 4 was?
Roma.
Your favorite frozen pizza, the feature-length film.
Yes. It's actually it's a documentary. It's about the making of. They say you don't want to see how the sausage is made, but I have to disagree.
I will make an
here.
exception for this one.
Yeah. So this is actually, I was thinking about it. This is the second Netflix release that has hit my top 10. So very interesting.
That's a come up this year for Netflix.
I know. Yeah. They're reaching a broader audience. They are writing checks, if anything. So this was a feature film by Alfonso Cuarón. He's pretty hot name in the film industry. I think he's certainly in that discussion for like title directors where his name almost trumps the title. It's bigger than the title.
Yeah, for
almost.
sure. Yeah.
And so Roma. So that was a foreign language film set in Mexico City, and so that little conversation was between the main character Cleo and one of the kids that she looks after, and it's just it's at the very start of the movie where they're sitting there and they're playing cops and robbers, and they just kind of both sit down, and the little kid's like, "Oh, I'm dead, I can't play," and she's like, "Oh, I'm dead too," and she's like, "It kind of feels good to be dead, doesn't it?" And I don't know, that kind of stuck with me for some reason. I don't know why.
You just want to be dead?
It stuck to me like that. The dog shit stuck to the freaking driveway that they had there.
Yeah.
So,
I was like, I have no idea where you're going with that. You lost me there for a second. No, I'm with you. I'm back.
Great use of dog shit as a narrative device there. So
maybe the best.
You gotta hand it to him.
Second best
Maybe
after Step Brothers White Dog Shit. That's number one.
Yeah, I don't necessarily want to make a grand statement like that. I don't talk in hyperbole, but
I'm just not prepared
it's
yet.
Up there. It's up there. You can't put me on the spot like that. But
I apologize.
Great use of dog shit. This movie, there was just a couple things in there that I just really had never seen, and it's really the only thing, and we talked about this a little bit, is that I wish I could have seen it in theaters. This film was meant to be seen in theaters, and I love that it's able to get the wider audience. I don't know if I see it if it doesn't come directly to Netflix. I can't foresee a Spanish-speaking film which is shot in all black and white and is over 2.5 hours long. Like, does that come to South Dakota?
Nope.
Probably not.
No, maybe for like a half hour.
Yeah. So, but again, this film was incredibly. It sat with me. The dog shit sat with me. The kung fu sat with me. There was some stuff in this film, and it's not as straightforward as you think, and I think that's one of those. It's one of those times where I could relate it back to Manchester by the Sea, where you broke my heart.
Yeah,
I gotta have at least one film on there that's it's very true to life, and everything and nothing gets settled within the time that you sit down with these characters, and that's kind of just the beauty of the whole story. So, Roma, that was my number 4. Was this on your list? I kind of just went off there.
No. This was one that
I remember you didn't really like it as much. So
we kind of disagreed on it. We talked about it on a previous episode, kind of in depth, but it was one that I wanted to like, and it's just one of those that I appreciated more than I liked, but it just didn't. Like you said, how it got in there, it stuck in your craw and it got deep. That just never happened for me in it. It was all very like surface level.
Sure.
And
you're scared to live.
That's true. No, yeah. Clearly, A Star Is Born is better than Roma. I mean, clearly.
You're right.
Just,
you're right.
I
don't have any rebuttal to that.
Right. And I don't know, like, because I've had movies like... Yeah, right. Exactly. It's hard to beat.
So.
But, like, with Moonlight and Lady Bird, those were two movies that I went into it thinking I'm going to have a hard time relating to this character, and so it might not hit me as deeply as it normally would. And in both cases, it hit me extremely deeply and was moved by it. And in this one, I didn't really have that going into it. I just thought, oh, it's going to be one of those indie movies that just takes me on an emotional journey, and the opposite happened, and it just kind of was like, okay, I liked it, but it nothing more for me, unfortunately.
Yeah, so I think I'm also a little bit just trying to project here and just thinking about, especially helped like looking back at our previous list, but how am I going to feel about some of these films in 2-3 years? And I think Roma's going to be there.
Yeah.
So, again, my only complaint with it is that I couldn't see it in theaters, because this is absolutely a movie that just needs to be seen on a big screen the way it was shot. So, cool. Let's move on to number 3.
Number 3.
Does it feel different to be up there without a rope? It's obviously like much higher consequence. People who know a little bit about climbing, they're like, oh, he's totally safe. And then people who really know exactly what he's doing are freaked out. I've thought about El Cap like for years, and every year I'm like, that's really scary. I'll never be content unless I at least put in the effort.
So your number 3 was?
A documentary called Free Solo.
Boom.
Did you see this one?
No, I actually just heard about it for the first time like this week. And I heard...
thought I mentioned it. Shoot, maybe I'd mentioned it to someone else.
No, this is on you. This is your fault.
Free Solo. This is a film about a guy called Alex Holland, and he is a free solo climber. And basically, what free soloing mean is you're like Batman in The Dark Knight Rises, and you're fucking climbing without a rope, and you must do as the child did. And a bunch of other deshi, basara, asara stuff. But yeah, this movie was incredible.
Wait, hold on. What just happened? What did you just say? Free apala basala? Apala basala?
That's what didn't they chant some crazy shit like that when he's climbing?
Oh,
Batman?
When he's in the tunnel. Okay. Yeah.
Batman?
Yeah.
It's not a tunnel.
No, just kind of... It's a tunnel facing up. It's just an upward facing tunnel. It's a vertical tunnel.
I am outraged.
No, he's in like the... He can't get a cell signal, so he wants to get out of there so he can call his dad. And no, I've seen it.
So as I was saying before, I was so rudely interrupted. Just professionalism. I mean,
if you're, let me see. As the medical professional of this podcast, can you fix a broken back by punching someone in the back and then just having them lay on a bed for a week?
If you're Batman,
then it works.
You're goddamn right you can.
All right, carry on.
Anyways, Free Solo. Directed by Jimmy Chin, so you may know him from Maru. This movie is absolutely harrowing. So he's the main character, Alex Holland. He's a free solo climber. He climbs without a rope, and he wants to do El Capitan in Yosemite. It's basically just the bee's knees. It's the biggest rock face in the world, and it's pretty much considered unclimbable without a rope. Like you're gonna die. One misstep, and you're gone. And so you guys know, like, you've seen climbing movies. Like, does he make it to the top? Yeah, but I cannot stress how nerve-wracking it is watching this guy, and just the fact that this is real, and the conflict that Jimmy Chin, the director, has filming this, because this is his friend, and
he's like, I don't want to film you
dying.
It is. Yeah,
and that's one of the big. It's this push and shove between. He doesn't really want to film him, and Alex Holland doesn't really want to be filmed, because he's like, these are my friends, and for every other free climb that he's ever done, he just goes out in the morning and he does it. And that's the thing with free climbing. You don't tell your mom or your dad, hey, I'm gonna go free solo this giant rock face today, because if it happens, it happens. You know, you can't be like, hey, I'm gonna go do this and just expect all your family and loved ones to sit there in agony, you know, before they get that text message. Either it's from you or it's from, you know, 3 days later.
Yeah. And I have it in high definition IMAX TV for all you guys to watch too. So that dynamic, and then also there's this dynamic between the climber Alex and his girlfriend, who is, my God, she's along for the ride, and she basically is the viewer, except for in real life she's just kind of playing this whole narrative out in real time, and I can't imagine what she went through, just having to cope with this feverish dream that this guy has, that he wants to do this thing that everyone just says is insane. So, yeah, there was so much going on with this film, and it's so much more than just climbing to the top, because, you know, again, we've seen this film before. It's not getting to the top that's the ultimate payoff. It's the journey, and just oh my gosh, I love this film. It's incredible to watch. I watched it 2 or 3 times, and each time you know it's coming. The karate kick, the boulder problem. It's really good. Better or worse really, really than good. 127 hours?
You doing the James Franco thing to me?
Yeah, I know your weak spots.
It's better.
That's probably the right answer. Yeah.
Nonfiction always trumps fiction.
What if it was, instead of normal James Franco, it was James Franco from Spring Breakers who was trapped in the boulder? Then would it be better than Free Solo?
See, now, and he's visited by Nick Cage from Mandy in his dreams when he's dreaming of cutting his arm loose. Alien James Franco. No, I still go.
Wow, that's high praise, folks.
Thing. I still go with the real thing. I could see this will be one of those things. So like Man on Wire, they made Man on Wire into a feature film.
Yep.
It sucks.
Yeah.
Because it's just a film. Then there's truly no peril, because not only do you know that he's going to cross the towers, but it's just a film. Like, what's going to happen?
Yeah.
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 So yeah, Free Solo is start to end just absolutely incredible to watch.
Yeah.
The filming, the drone shots, them just being on the mountain with him, and just seeing the scenes where, like, the guys, they can't hardly even look at him because they know that there's a part coming up where he's fallen 7-8 times with the rope, and he's just got to do this. Whew. Yeah, it's good.
Well, you sold me
stuff.
on it. I'm really excited to see it.
Yeah, the combination of the challenge itself, the friendship between everyone involved in the project, and then the guy himself is just incredibly interesting. They kind of they describe him as like Spock. He's like this
interesting
dude that just sees the world differently and has a really hard time, you know, exciting that the medulla oblongata in his brain, because he's so dulled to the rest of the world from all this crazy free climbing he's done. But I gotta cut myself off there.
Okay.
So so that was number 3. So I think we're back to you, right?
Yep. Let's go back to my number 4.
Dad, there's so many things that we've never spoken about. You never asked what went on there. You never asked if I was okay. There's no changing me. Hey! God knows I tried. This is me.
So my number 4 is the newest addition to my list. I just saw it Sunday, actually, and it was so good that it actually jumped to my number 4 of the year. Boy Erased. Have you seen this movie?
You're going with the GOAT, the
Yep.
Lucas Hedges.
Hell yeah.
I haven't seen this. You know how much I love Lucas Hedges,
Yes.
but yeah, this one.
So
I've nearly seen it a couple times. Was this in theaters in Sioux Falls?
no, I don't think
Okay.
so. I don't think I ever saw it. It might have been for like a weekend, but it came and went. And this was one I knew I wanted to see, directed by Joel Edgerton, starring our boy Lucas Hedges, who we bought stock on early, way early. We're that's paying
Early
out
investors.
already. Yeah, and I think, for my money, I think this is his best performance.
Okay.
And I'm not just saying
See, I
that.
saw Beautiful Boy. I went the other way. I saw the Timothée Chalamet one,
Yeah.
which wasn't as great.
Yeah, and
But I wish I would have seen this one.
yeah, this one was really just outstanding. I mean, it was honestly better than I thought it would be. I knew I wanted to see it. I like Joel Edgerton, like I said. I love Lucas Hedges, and it just really. So, if for those of you who don't know the basic premise, the IMDb pitch is the son of a Baptist preacher is forced to participate in a church-supported gay conversion program after being forcibly outed to his parents.
Sure.
So his dad is a preacher, and he goes off to college, and he has this incident with a guy, and stuff happens where anyway his parents find out about it, and he basically comes out to them, and then they are like, okay, well, we think you should go to this gay conversion thing to pray the gay away, as they say. And it's really, really, really good. And this is another one that could have easily fell into melodrama, and I don't think it did, which I really appreciate. And it was just top to bottom phenomenal performances, as evident from my 2016 list. I'm all in on Fat Russell Crowe. I'll take him every day of the week, and he was really, really good in this. Obviously, Joel Edgerton is one of the best working, I think, in my book. There's not a lot better than him, and in this one, he gives another really good performance. Doesn't have a lot of screen time, but doesn't need it, and it's just Lucas Hedges trying to figure out, and it just is what it sounds like, but just even better than that, and it just plays on all our own securities, and you relate to it because everybody has that point where they're finding out who they really are, and you kind of have to accept who you are, and you want people to accept you for who you are as well, and you can't lie about it, and you can't really change what deep down, who you really are. And it's just really, really powerful, and this one got me.
Okay.
This one really hit home.
To clarify, this one was Lucas Hedges, and Russell Crowe was also in this?
Yeah, he was the daddy.
Okay, and then this is directed by
Joel Edgerton, and he
Okay.
is also sort of the baddie in it. Sort of the
Okay,
villain.
gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely wanted to see this. I think it was maybe actually in theaters for a little bit near us, but I wasn't able to get a chance to see it. So
We gotta be loyal
yeah.
listeners. You don't know what it's like. We gotta be on that shit. If it comes down, some of these are in town literally for 2 days, and you just have to be there.
1 weekend only.
And you don't get any warning. They're just there and gone. So, unfortunately, this one came later, but I'm glad I saw it. And this one, I don't know. I don't know if this is a rewatchable movie. I don't know if I'm going to watch it again. But from the releases that came out in 2018, this one hit home for me. So
Yeah. There you go.
All right.
I think, I think certainly Russell Crowe, Fat Russell Crowe is here to stay.
Yeah,
He's playing Roger Ailes next in that Fox News thing.
Institution.
So,
in my book.
so yeah. No, that awesome. Yeah, I love to see our boy up there. We've gone over it. He's got the GOAT potential. He's next. He's next to wear the crown.
Yeah.
Early investors here. Can't wait to pay it off. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. All right.
Number 3.
Number 3.
Think you're tough and shit. You're just a little kid.
How long you been friends with those guys?
A couple months. They're really cool. So cool.
You're so cute. You're like at the age before guys become dicks.
So that was your pick from earlier, mid-90s. Yeah, it climbed all the way up to number 3 for me. Sunburn. We talked about this on that Mid-Mandy episode, and so we really get in depth in that episode, but this movie, this one got in there. We talk about, movies being just about life and not really about much else. Like, this one is just, it's one of the best. And
Lady Bird with skateboards.
Well, that's, yeah. I mean, you kind of just fractured my brain a little bit there, but somehow that's accurate. Yeah. If you watch Lady Birds and you thought, I could use more skateboards in this.
It's like, it's good, but it's missing some, needs more cowbell.
Yeah. And they don't hesitate. They really bang the shit out of that cowbell. And it works. I can't believe how many directorial debut directors are on my list. Like, A Star is Born, Bradley Cooper, mid-90s, Jonah Hill, the one you brought up earlier, 8th Grade, Bo Burnham, was Road in Some Unusual Size, was a first-time director. There's just something about those, but for to have a movie this great be your first film is really, like, that's something else. That's really, really incredible. And Jonah Hill in interviews says that he always wanted to be a director, and he just kind of became a famous actor without really trying to focus on that. And it's cool to see him, like, this was a story that he kind of wanted to tell that was near and dear to his heart, and that fucking bleeds through to no end. And
right. Yeah, I think we touched on it pretty well. I thought the authenticity was absolutely there. It didn't feel forced. I think we talked a lot about how, like, nostalgia is forced upon us now.
Yeah. And
it didn't feel like that at all. The fact that all of these dudes were either professional skateboarders or could skate was incredible and absolutely essential to the film. And I can't fathom how they got two dudes like Nickel Smith and Olin Prennett, who are just knockout personality actors. Like, yeah, it's cool if they're just being themselves, that's awesome, but man, it really translated well onto the big screen. So yeah, and just the fact that the star of it, so Sunburn Stevie, played by Sonny Solchik, can skate. He's really, really good skater in real life, and they just chose not to have him fulfill this arc where he's becomes this great skater, because that's where you think the film's going, is that, oh yeah, he's going to make little progress here and there, and by the end of the movie he's going to be looking like Tony Hawk. But that the power of narrative there, it kind of overcomes it.
And it's just like little things like that you don't really think about or you don't point to, really just is the glue that holds it all together. And it's just so many moments of those little things that just, man. Lady Bird with skateboards. It just can't get any better than that description, man.
Boom. That's the elevator pitch right there. That's how you get a movie made.
Yeah.
That's why you have me here. That's why I'm still on this podcast.
Finally, we finally figured out why.
There's going to be a time when you need me, to really push home that elevator pitch, and I got it.
Okay.
Lady Bird with skateboard.
Here we go.
So, let's go. Do we want to just go 2-2 and then 1-1?
Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So, number 2.
Number 2.
Sorry for making you worry about me. If we had a phone, I could have called you.
Always been able to communicate without all that.
I think it might be easier on us if we try to adapt.
We're wearing their clothes, we're in their house, we're eating their food, we're doing their work. We have adapted. The only place.
So your number 2 movie of 2018 was?
Leave No Trace.
I don't even think I've heard of this movie, man.
Really?
Really?
Wow. Okay. So, Leave No Trace. This was a film starring Thomasin McKenzie, who I don't think I've seen her in anything else. Alongside Ben Foster, who I know from Hell or High Water. He played kind of the crazy brother.
Mm-hmm.
And so they play a father-daughter duo who essentially live on their own and when I mean on their own, they live in a state park, just isolated from the world, pretty much. And so this is a father-daughter coming of age movie where it becomes increasingly harder for Ben Foster's character to live the way that they live, mostly because it's illegal to live in a state park. You just can't do it. It's against the rules.
Right.
They get caught. But also he starts to realize that his daughters has to go out and see the world. And so they kind of abandon this lifestyle of trying to, of living off the land, of living on their own, of basically just camping. But there's all sorts of different things that are going on here with like his past. Why does he choose to live like this? Is he a good father? Is he wrong for bringing his daughter up like this? The love between these two characters, and just how the outside world perceives these two is really, really, really good. And just the dynamic between her growing, her coming of age, her understanding what her dad is just a whirlwind of emotion. The ending of this movie was so freaking powerful for me that I'll just leave it at that. So, Leave No Trace. That was my number 2, and yeah.
Wow.
I love this film.
I can't believe I haven't heard anything about it, but I'm a big Ben Foster fan. He kind of creeps in every once in a while, but he's so good.
He's so good in this.
And
so good in this.
I wish he would work more. I will always remember him from 310 to Yuma. $200 cash dollars. That's him.
Yep.
That's who he's.
Yeah, he does this really quiet, reserved thing in this film, and man, it's one of those like tantalizing things where all you want to know is you want to know more. You're like, just why? What's going on here? And here we go. I'm going to do the Manchester by the Sea thing, where you just want it to work out for him, but he can't.
Man.
Yeah, he can't.
Man.
Can't change. So.
Wow.
Yeah, that's my number 2.
Okay.
Leave No Trace.
All right. I'm definitely going to see that one. Okay. Number 2.
Hey guys, it's Kayla back with another video. So, the topic of today's video is being yourself. Being yourself can be hard, and it's like, aren't I always being myself? And yeah, for sure. But being yourself is like not changing yourself to impress someone else. A lot of people like call me
So my number 2, it was a little bit lower on your list. 8th Grade.
Yeah.
And
Bo Burnham.
Bo Burnham. I've been a big Bo Burnham fan for a long time. His latest stand-up special on Netflix, Make Happy, is one of my favorites of all time. And I've been a fan of his for a long time, and I really he's just very deep thinking kind of guy, which comes across in this film. But this movie just really, I knew I wanted to see it, and it really just blew me away, and I could not believe how it literally felt like I was in 8th grade again. Like, I forgot what it was like to be in 8th grade, and then watching this, you're like, oh shit. I fucking forgot how terrible that was. And there were just emotions and feelings that bubbled up that I didn't remember. I stored away and was hoping never to go back there again, but then, they come up, and this was the movie that came the closest. Well, for a feature, it came the closest to making me cry, to breaking my streak of over 3 years at this point, going on 4 here, hopefully, of crying.
Just let it go.
So, but it almost did, but I'm still holding strong. Don't worry, guys.
Just watch Con Air. Just watch Con Air.
That'll
cry.
Finally. Yeah, but this was one that... I'm not going to let you go on that. But this was one that just really... All right, this is going to be our clean in. So this was the one that hit me the hardest emotionally, and I didn't see it when it first came to theaters, but it hit the cheap seats randomly here, so I went and saw that right away, and it... just...
Yeah, so I think most of us know, 8th grade, it's about a girl in 8th grade, growing up in the social media era. We don't really have to explain too much farther into the plot, but and so I don't want to speak in hyperbole here, but the pool scene.
Yeah.
Is that maybe the best scene of the year?
Yeah,
maybe?
I would put that up there for sure.
It's close. I have one other in my mind that I'm thinking about, but I'm going to save here for a second.
Yeah.
But gosh, that entire sequence, not even just getting out to the pool, but getting to the door, not even wanting to walk to the door, opening the door, and then you don't know where anyone's at, and instantly you're in the house, and you're like, oh god, maybe I'll just leave. I don't want to ask where everyone's at, and then being let out there, and then the fear and the panic heightens even more when she's outside and she sees the pool, and she's like, oh god. It is just like absolute, just a dreadnought of panic and just anxiety just wells up in you, and you're absolutely right. This film was top to bottom really, really good. Really, really, really. Is that enough?
Now you're speaking my language.
Yeah. So that one stuck out with me, and then also the scene at the end with her dad.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. That's the part
played
that
by Josh Hamilton. Who it reminded me a lot of Call Me by Your Name, the titular scene at the end with Michael Stuhlbarg and Timothée Chalamet, where they kind of have their heart-to-heart, and just like in both cases, just fucking dad of the year. Like,
Call Me by Your Name. You said you wanted more bike rides in, right? They didn't have enough.
Yeah. Again, to clarify, more bike rides. I felt like they were way too busy with work in that movie. I was busy at my job. Is that a pretty good one? Is that
Yeah.
a good Timothy?
Yeah, that sounded exactly like him.
Sorry, I was kind of talking out of the side of my mouth, there's a little kind of head nod going there. Again, it's an audio medium, so you guys can really,
you guys are really missing
see
out.
that. I got to project it through.
Yep.
So, yeah, but I don't know. What do you have to say? I'm talking too much.
Yeah, you are. It's I mean,
Thank you.
you're welcome. This is another one that it's not plot heavy, which I think is a pretty recurring theme for a lot of our movies. And this was another one that
but 8th grade isn't terribly plot heavy.
Exactly.
It's not like they're at fucking Hogwarts. Like,
yeah, thank you.
Voldemort is not coming after him. There's
yeah, like
8th grade.
Yeah. So
nothing happens.
No, yeah, but nothing happens, and you think it's the end of the world. Like everything, when nothing happens, you think it's the end of the world, and it left me vulnerable and speechless coming out of there, and I was like, man, I don't want to talk to anybody for a while because it's an experience that I don't know. I would be interested to like see actual 8th graders watching this and kind of see what they think. And,
I'd love to.
Just because I don't know, would they be able to fully appreciate it? Would they think it's like cheesy? I don't know. I would hope that it would get in there deep, and but man, that'd be a good podcast. But just for the record, I don't hang out with 8th graders in my spare time, so I just want that out there. Not like Only God Forgives. Opening scene.
Yeah, you know what? Let's leave that. Let's just leave that one.
Yeah, we're not going to say it. Nope. Okay.
So yeah.
I think we're coming up.
Did we do it?
We did it.
Did we do it?
We did it.
We did it.
We meshed up.
I knew it.
There was no other choice.
Play the clip.
This is our number one movie of 2018. Yeah, we'll play your clip.
Yeah, don't play your clip.
Fuck, I hate you so much.
Charlie, you're all right now. You are Paimon, one of the 8 kings of hell. We have looked to the northwest and called you in. We've corrected your first female body and give you now this healthy male host. We reject the Trinity and pray devoutly to you, great Paimon. Give us your knowledge of all secret things. Bring us honor, wealth, and good familiars. Bind all men to our will as we have bound ourselves for now and ever to yours.
That was our number one film of 2018. Hail Paimon.
Hail Paimon.
Man, we did a whole episode. We did a whole episode on this movie, Hereditary. A whole episode on it. It deserved a whole episode and more. And man, this is a fucking great movie. And it's a fucking weird movie. And, you know...
Weird by design.
Yes, absolutely. And this was Ari Aster directed it, right? And this was his first feature as well, right?
Debut.
So, this year we have, on my list for first-time directors, I have Hereditary, 8th Grade, mid-90s, I'm not sure about Blind Spotting, Rodents of Unusual Size, A Star is Born. That's about half at this point. I mean, that's pretty nuts.
Yeah. This movie, so what's my box? Memorable. and this movie is, I think I watched it 5 or 6 times this year. It's incredible. Every time it gets better. The Oscars are a fucking sham. Toni Collette not getting nominated is just
I cannot believe
beyond travesties. But that's the way it goes. Horror movies aren't real movies, so they can't be seen as real art.
Right.
You might think that we're making progress, but we're really not. I don't want to get into that. We can talk about that next week and all the Oscar good stuff. But just Hereditary, man. It's a banger, start to finish.
It is.
Just the detail, the nuance. You would not suspect first time director here. Just there's a certain level of detail and precision that just puts it so far over the top that it's great.
And like we said, we really dove in deep we did a whole hour on just Hereditary. You should definitely go find that episode and listen to it. But when you were referring to the pool scene in 8th Grade as maybe the best scene of the year, this one has the best scene of the year.
This is the one I didn't want to say because this is the other one I was thinking of. But I've never been so shocked and just blown away. And the fact that this movie kind of has it, there's an argument to be made that this is a happy ending.
Yeah.
I don't know what you think about demon possessions and but God, I don't know if he comes back from this otherwise. I think it's maybe he's better off being the 7th king of hell.
Yeah. Yeah, and I just think there's a couple scenes of this movie that are fucking great, but I think the one for me that stands out is the party scene. When he goes to the party with his sister and then coming back, and that whole like I said, we talked about it in depth, but that's one of the best scenes of filmmaking I've ever seen in my life. I mean, just man. This movie is just so thick, top to bottom, it's just oozing with greatness. This is one of the best movies I've seen in a few years, to be honest.
Yep.
And it's just,
it leaves those subtle hints. There's no foreboding of anything satanic. There's no 666 written on the wall. It's so, you're curious. You're like, what is, you're not even sure. You see these little words just etched into the wall. It's I don't even know what that word is.
And
pandemonium. And now it's I'm not, I won't even write that down on a piece of paper.
Yeah, no, that's smart. It's fucking smart.
So,
but this was, I just rewatched this not that long ago. I think I bought it on Black Friday. It was $6 on Black Friday. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
So I bought it and rewatched it, and it's so fucking good. But one of the things,
all the subtle clues are there.
Yes, they are.
You can't see it on your first time through.
Right. No, and the first time through they explore the unreliable narrative storyline that you think is a real possibility towards the end of Toni Collette, where it's clearly they're setting up for it to be that, she just lost her mind and this is all, man. I'm just getting into the likes and because it's hard to put into words how fucking good and one of the things I look for in a really good movie that really soaks in and gets in there is a movie that's hard to describe to people. If you have a hard time telling them what it's about, what makes them good, and if like certain people, like my test is like Dalton, my friend Dalton, there's no way he'll listen to this, but he would watch this movie and he would be like, dude, that was weird. And that's like, and not like it. And that's like the highest compliment you can give a movie is for Dalton to not like it and say it was weird. So this is like the gold standard of that. So that's my barometer for good movies.
Yeah, I mean, tell you what, films that either start with a funeral or a wedding are just all-timers.
Yeah, The Godfather.
Never fails. Yep. Need I say more? Yeah.
That's it. End of podcast. All right.
Yeah, so Hereditary, that's it. That's number one. That's
There's no doubt.
2018.
Yeah.
We're at a consensus there. I think it's Hereditary is one, and I don't really think it's close, even though there's some other really good films here, but it was just kind of in another class, and I think that's going to stay that way.
Yep, I think so too.
Did you want to quick go through some ones that just missed out, or what are you thinking?
A couple that I have written down here. Annihilation. We saw that, and
Same.
it's about like 2/3 of a really interesting good movie.
That's
maybe
why I left
half.
it off. The first half
is
really
a little
didn't
rough.
do it for me, but it's worth the price of admission just for the ending. I listened to that soundtrack over and over and over last year. Yeah.
That's it.
Womp, 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 womp.
Yeah. Womp, 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 womp. Yep. Over and over. Green Book, I just talked a little bit about on last pod. Fine, fun movie, but didn't make it. A Quiet Place, I thought for sure would make my list, and that was a really good horror movie, but just didn't quite make the cut. The Won't You Be My Neighbor, that documentary was really really good, and I had a hard time leaving that off the list. That was the movie that was the closest to making me cry of the year, but I didn't. And one personal, I didn't. I swear to God. And one that I made a canvas of this poster. It's hanging up on my wall. Willow Creek Road, another South Dakota Film Festival movie. I didn't put it on here just because it's not a feature. It was about 20 minutes. So I didn't
stick to the criteria.
Right. So I didn't think I could count it, but in my heart of hearts, that Willow Creek Road is on here too. But for the fans, What were some of yours that you left off?
Quickly, let's see, some ones that you...
Oh, and Mandy, but we talked about that. So, yeah.
Yep, so I agree with you, Annihilation. Film I saw, Revenge, I like that, it's about revenge.
No shit.
Upgrade, I thought Upgrade was good.
I've heard that from a lot of people. I haven't seen it, but
Bjork versus McEnroe.
That was really good. I really liked that.
I like that movie a lot. Isle of Dogs.
I wanted more
Place.
on that.
Mission Impossible. I thought Mission Impossible was actually really good.
Yeah, I did too.
The bathroom scene was a banger.
Yeah.
Won't You Be My Neighbor? A film called The Endless. That's on Netflix. You want to check it out? Cool sci-fi flick. Momentum Generation, documentary about surfers. Cam. Another Netflix one. It's about like Twitch chat and live streaming and kind of spooky. Bird Box, did that, what do you think?
It wasn't really close, no.
Yeah, so, me neither, but figured it was worth mentioning. Film Worker, another documentary.
Yeah, I like Film Worker.
A little bit more lukewarm than, Luke kind of liked it a little bit more than I did.
Yeah.
Skyscraper, maybe my 1A to 1B to... No, I'm just kidding. Skyscraper wasn't very good. That was kind of sad.
Yeah, no shit.
Yeah, and then, but yeah, there's all different kinds of movies that, you know, we didn't see this year as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
we're still working on it, and yeah, it's kind of just a work in progress, but I think we did a pretty good job. Yeah, anything else to add here?
Our newest addition to this episode, our engineer producer,
Still awake?
He's still awake. He said that we forgot to mention Rampage. We somehow missed both of our lists.
We somehow missed all 8 of The Rock's films this year.
So, but we're saving that for its own separate list. That's why.
Right.
We couldn't fit them all on one.
Yep. Got it. Well, hey,
man.
we did it.
Yeah, for those of you that stuck it out to the end, you heard where we ended up. The eagle landed. We came together for Hereditary. Man. Now I just feel like I have homework. Like, there's so many movies that you brought up that I want to fucking watch now. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. You can check me out on Twitter at LukeLarson89. Find this podcast at L2Pod on Twitter, at L2Podcast on Facebook. We're on SoundCloud, YouTube. Check us out. Let us know some movies that you saw this year that we should have had on our list. What movies you now want to see because of what we said. We'd love to hear about that. Also, I'm going to try, we have a producer here, some tech guys, we're going to try and timestamp each one of these for you. I know it's at the end of the pod now, and you don't give a shit, and you would have already seen these, but I'm throwing it out there anyway. So, until next time, here's to 2019.
Hail Payman.